Got out in '74, specialist fourth class. Was in a communications company at Fort Dix in New Jersey, and ended up staying there for the whole 2 years, so I got a good deal serving in the military. Actually, I was drafted in the last draft in United States history. And that's when they changed going in from 3 years to 2 years, and I had a recruiter bugging me. I received my draft notice and told me I had to go on a Friday, report on a Friday. Now, being that young, who would want to waste a weekend? So the recruiter called me, and I said, well, if I can go in on the middle of the week, that would be fine. So I enlisted instead of being drafted. Came out, went back to college, went nights, worked days, and they wanted me to get involved at the post level, and I stalled them until 1979. In 1979, I started going through the chairs in the post, and at that time I went to work for the city of Chicopee here, and the guys from the Legion came in. At that point, I was working in the mayor's office, and they came in and wanted to hold a department convention here in Chicopee. At that time, the communities were fronting $5,000 to hold department conventions in their cities. So I talked to the mayor, and he said, yeah. Following June, convention was going to be in Springfield, the next city over, and asked if the mayor would come along with them to make the presentation. So that gave me my first lesson in Legion politics, and said from then on I was going to get involved. Went through the county and up through the department, served in all the offices. I was elected department commander in 1987, youngest one in the history, and still at 35 years old. And I was fortunate that year was the year Jake Comer was elected national commander for Massachusetts. And that was the first time we had a national commander in 50 years. I got to be mentored by him, and I'm continued to be mentored by him. As we jokingly say, he's senior and I'm junior. But he's a great mentor and a great friend. And got involved on a national level with different committees. I think I was very fortunate through that process to serve on a variety of different committees to give me a great handle of the organization, to go up through the chairs and become national commander. I kind of think back to, I think it was in Wisconsin when I was commander and doing like the Legion College, and at the end they asked me to speak, and I did a Q&A, and someone said, well, don't you think you ought to be national commander for at least 2 years? I said, let me tell you. I says, if anyone says the term should be 2 years, they didn't do the job right the first time. And I says, I strongly believe that whoever that national commander's going to be, his educational process should come from serving on the different national committees before he becomes national commander. That's when you do the work of the organization. That's where you have your input, is when you serve on those different committees. Probably the biggest issue going on during that year was the war in Iraq. I often sit back and think about it 6 times with President Bush in the course of my year as national commander. I don't think there's too many commanders that can say they, in one way or another, were in the presence of the commander-in-chief 6 times. We as an organization supported going in. We supported taking it over and bringing them back to democracy. But we also strongly urged the support for those serving, and that they had the right equipment that they needed. And most importantly was the care of those who came back who were injured from that conflict and war. And I must say the President gave me his word and his commitment through that process, and he held to. The first visit I had was a one-on-one in the Oval Office in October. And that time the Secretary of VA was Secretary Nichols. And him and I had conversations prior to this meeting with the President. And one of our concerns and his concerns was, and as I said, this war in Iraq was going on, was the ability to see the Department of Defense and the VA come to an electronic record. And more so is for the Department of Defense. When you've seen kids going on at a battlefield and their medical records were taped to their chest, there's something wrong with the system. And I'll never forget the President saying to me, Paul, if you think government in a whole is a bureaucracy, try to work with the VA. in the Department of Defense to make this happen. This came from the President of the United States. So we had great conversation, talked about the constitutional amendment to protect the flag from desecration. Then he came out to our national convention. So I not only had him at our Washington conference, I had him at our national convention also. Did a great job. I look at it not as one major accomplishment. I look at it, one, as our position within VA&R and caring for those veterans who were coming home, who were wounded, their families. When I had the opportunity to go to on my European trip and visit the veterans in Germany at the Landstuhl, the hospital, it wasn't until I was probably in the fourth or fifth room and shaking those courageous men and women's hands and presenting them the commander's coin. When I was leaving one room and I asked the young man, I said, "Would you like me to turn the TV on?" And he says, "Commander, I would, but they don't work." It kind of like blew me out of the water. The greatest country in the world, and we couldn't have a TV working in a wounded warrior's room. So the next day I had a meeting with the general, European Command General. Listened to everything, told him my concern. This is in May, and he said they'll be taken care of in October. I said, in all due respect, sir, I am calling back to Washington. I'm not happy. I want to see something done sooner about it. A day later, I then called our national adjutant, who was Bob Spinogle at the time. And I said, "Bob, I believe I challenged them to fix them. We're an organization that has stood up strong," and I says, "Let's raise some money. And I don't want no fancy marketing. We don't need a marketing firm. I think if we can raise $50,000 by the time we hit my national convention in August, we can buy them kids new TVs for all those rooms." We started that campaign off, and I think we went to my national convention with over $300,000, and that was the seed, which is now Operation Comfort Warrior, which is a great success, an added program within our organization. The other one is American Legion Baseball. Great program, touches so many youth. Thing used to upset me most, I'd sit home and I could watch Little League on national TV. I couldn't see the greatest baseball program in the world, American Legion Youth Baseball, on TV. So I formed a committee, and then the executive director of the Washington office I put as a member, and my eyes and ears to that committee, Dan Wheeler. And we got a change going. It took 4 years to get it to become a permanent site, to see it stream live. The culmination of that is coming with the beginning of the live broadcast of the final game this year. So those two things are very important to me. Operation Comfort Warriors takes care of those veterans. American Legion Baseball takes care of the youth of the nation. But it all comes back to membership. Young men and women going in to sit at a bar, smoke cigarettes, and drink for 25-cent beers, 50 cents, whatever you want to call them. Those days are gone. We have to accept that. Those post homes can be the home for the monthly spaghetti dinner where the families go and you have things for the young children to do. You need to have Wi-Fi capabilities. You need to have couches instead of bar stools where they can sit around and talk. And so those things need to happen. Well, I've been fortunate to live comfortably and work hard, raise a great family. I got to probably be one of the luckiest people in the world. I got to serve 2 years in the United States Army. I didn't get wounded from it. And I always said if I could, one thing out of it all, for that luck, I would give back to my fellow veterans as much as I could. And I think through the American Legion, I've been fulfilling that commitment.